Yeah, so we helped e-commerce retailers to automatically bundle products together that were typically high margin. So for example, if we were selling, let's say, an iPhone, we'd recommend a case or a screen protector to go alongside.
All online.
All online.
Welcome to Built Online. I'm Cody McGuffie, and this podcast is all about one thing: building the business of your dreams. Selling art, teaching classes, starting a blog, launching a brand, whatever your passion is, we show you how to turn it into real income. I created EverBee to help anyone with a dream start and scale business.
EverBee.
And we now serve over 800,000 creators all across the globe. On this show, we bring on real entrepreneurs who've done it. They share their secrets, they share their failures, the exact steps that you can take to get started. What if you can get one golden nugget out of today's episode, and it's the breakthrough that takes you from just dreaming to actually living a life on your terms? At EverBee, we believe that every human is a creator, and every creator should own a business. Anthony, made it.
Yeah.
What's up, man?
What's up? How's it going?
Great. Happy you're here, man.
You too. Thank you.
You have a cool story, a really cool story, and I'm kind of getting a chance to witness your story as it's continuing to unfold. And I really appreciate you coming on.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
How would you describe yourself? Are you a trainer, a nutritionist, entrepreneur, founder, creator, business owner? Typically, if they ask.
Yeah,
hey.
I'm an entrepreneur. So I really, really enjoyed building something from the ground up. That's me through and through.
Why do you say entrepreneur and not necessarily like founder or, I guess, coach? Because that's kind of what you're doing now.
Yeah. I mean, I've got a background like running a SaaS company before that I did for 10 years. And I think prior to that, I was always, as a kid, running random different businesses. So I think it's really kind of inside my DNA. I guess I identify with just simply creating something from nothing, trying to build it as much as possible. And I consider myself like an operator as well.
Before we get into like all the details of the story and everything like that, I do have a couple questions.
Okay.
You're primarily based in London right now.
That's right.
Also Lisbon.
Mm-hmm.
You've been doing travel around all the US for the past, I think, multiple weeks. Where have you been? Who have you had with you? Why are you here?
Yeah, of course. So we're part of an entrepreneur community called Hampton, so like you and I are. Yeah. Basically, it's like a highly vetted community of like successful and ambitious founders. As part of that, they were holding a peak performance retreat in Deer Valley in Utah. So we were skiing with them, and basically like we took care of like all of the nutrition for all of the members. So like working with a private chef to help them, get the right nutrition to fuel their workouts and like teach them a few things. And we also ran like nutrition consultations with them. So I was with our lead nutritionist, who's called Barbara. So she came along. And then after that, we went to San Francisco. We met up with a few of our clients out there. So even though we're based in London or in Europe, about 95% of our business actually comes out of the US. So we were hanging out with them in San Francisco and for a few days. And then we came out to Austin actually to film you in the case study for Daily Body Coach. And do this podcast.
Let's go.
Yeah.
You said that, you told me this, I don't know if you remember this, but you said that when you are in like the best physical shape, or that when you're in great physical shape, that your business operates better.
Yeah.
You make more money, and you're more successful overall.
Yeah.
Why do you say that?
I think there's a huge difference in making sure your body has everything it needs in order to function. It's like the vehicle of your life. So I can tell you that like when I was running my previous company, there were some times that I got out of shape. I used to run an e-com SaaS company. And as you know, like in that industry, like when stores closed during COVID, online started really booming. And my work levels really increased. I was also stuck in another country. So I was in Belgium because I was traveling at the time. So that obviously changed my routine, and also did like having gyms closed as well. So I found it difficult to like work out. And I really saw the difference in terms of like getting out of shape. I gained maybe around like 18 pounds at the time. That I would wake up a lot more tired. I was more susceptible to stress. I would have less energy, become less confident, not happy with the way I'd see myself in the mirror when I woke up in the morning. And to be honest, I didn't identify with what I saw in the mirror because most of the time I'd be, pretty fit and like in decent shape. And that was kind of the first time in that 10-year journey that I kind of let myself go. And
And that was about 18 pounds. Like, I mean,
18 pounds.
You consider letting yourself go?
Yeah, for sure. Because I know what it's like to feel in peak performance versus like when it's not. And I think you kind of look at it, it's like, imagine you're feeling like 5 out of 10. You're bringing your 5 out of 10 version to everything that you do. So like to your family, to your business, to absolutely everything. And so like, how can you expect to make the best optimal decisions if you're just 5 out of 10 version of yourself?
It's 50% that's failing.
Yeah,
in schools.
And that's just not good, right? And I think one of the things that I want to do is I want to be sharp. I want to have energy. I want to be able to like keep plowing through. Like running a business is a journey that takes, everything from you for many, many, many years. So it's like you need to be fit enough to be able to sprint in the marathon that you're running.
Why is it that we let ourselves get out of shape? And I come from a place of, it's my experience, right?
Yeah.
Where, and most people listening to this right now, they're business creators, they're motivated people, they want to make changes in their lives. And when they set a goal, they go and get that goal.
Yeah.
And when they set a fitness goal, I want to lose 20 pounds, I want to be 15% body fat, and I'm 30, let's say, or I want to be 10% body fat. When they set that goal, they're serious. They actually mean that.
Yeah.
But then time slips by, maybe a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, sometimes 3 months, and they somehow like lose that clarity or something. What is happening, do you think?
Yeah, I think it's actually a really, really complex topic. And I think there's many reasons why people actually fail at doing it. So it's actually quite interesting. There's more people walking around with a six-pack than more people walking around as a millionaire than walking around with a six-pack. And interestingly, it's actually much easier to actually have a six-pack. It's a simple
You mean to be a
process that
millionaire?
needs to be followed. Than being a millionaire, for sure, yeah.
It's easier to be a millionaire than it is to have a six-pack.
Yeah, without a doubt.
Gotcha.
No, wait, sorry, without the other way around. So it's easier to have a six-pack than it is to be a millionaire.
Oh, interesting.
And I believe a lot of the people that become a millionaire have the traits to be able to get a six-pack. You've got discipline naturally. You're able to set goals and achieve them, go through like maybe hard times to go get to those outcomes. All of that type of stuff, you've got the foundation to be able to succeed at doing it. I also think that when I look at the main reasons, so I think there's a lot of misinformation around training and nutrition. So I think a lot of people don't have that there. And in particular, when we look at nutrition, it's like 80% of the results come from nutrition, 20% are going to come from working out.
Abs are built in the kitchen.
Yeah, 100%. And so, but a lot of people index a lot heavier onto like training, for example. So like, I think that's an imbalance there. And people believe that they know how to eat because they eat every day. But actually it's very complex, but it's also quite simple at the same time. I also find that particularly with like the entrepreneurial type or people that are pushing the envelope, they are people that have high levels of stress and like demanding schedules. So it really takes more effort to be able to understand how to like, a plan is not enough. You need basically a system that you can leverage to be able to like adapt to things. So for example, if you're going to be traveling for work or you've got less time to sleep or your baby's crying so you didn't sleep so well, all of these things can influence that change in routine, the plan that you're following. And most of those plans aren't adapted to people that live those types of lifestyles. They're created by somebody that lives in the gym, for example, and that's just not reality for those types of people.
Why do you think, in your experience of building your first company, which we'll get into in a minute, why did you start to slip though? I mean, you're firing on all cylinders.
Yeah.
You're fired up. You're probably already in pretty good shape, but somehow you started to kind of slip away, 18 pounds, right, heavier.
Yeah.
Why do you think that's happening? And I ask for myself. I also ask for all the people listening to this right now who are creators, entrepreneurs, business owners that they find that they have challenging time schedules.
Yeah.
Maybe they have a family, kids, their mom, their dad. The business is sucking so much energy from them, and they can't even think about getting the workout in.
Yeah. I think we go through like ups and downs in life. Everybody goes through them. I think as entrepreneurs, we go through more than the norm because we also have that added pressure from work as well as everything else that we need to deal with. And I think it comes down to often not having simply the accountability that you need to make sure that somebody's always pushing you back in line. And I think if we look at the amount of marketing or like the pull that we're getting from all sorts of other things to go like eat bad or to go do something else, come let's go get a drink, business lunch, have to go travel, all of these types of things, pulling you one way, you need the accountability to balance that out. So I find that even myself, for example, I still use the daily body coach service to make sure that I am also held accountable to stay in shape. And then I think the second thing is that when you've got those high levels of stress or like different things that pop up, they are opportunities to throw you off your routine. And when that happens, it's like that presents a risk. So having somebody that can just adapt everything for you, so which is like what we do. So like if you're going to go to a restaurant, we help you pick off the menu. If you're going to travel, you forward on your flights and we'll take care of like the logistics behind that, what you should take with you on the plane. All of these types of things, like having an EA, for example, to take care of those things means that you can just do that on autopilot and still live your life. And that's what we basically help to do.
It's interesting you mentioned about like founders, entrepreneurs, they tend to, I don't even know if you said this or I was thinking it when you were saying it, is that we tend to, we're motivated people, right? Like we do our own information, or I'm sorry, our own homework, our own research, and we tend to trust ourselves pretty often, right?
Yeah.
And great, in a lot of the founder setting, the entrepreneur setting, building a company, you got to trust yourself. It's very important. But it works against, actually, I'll speak from personal experience. It has worked against me in the nutrition game a little bit too.
Yeah.
To where I have thought I knew certain things that were just fundamental truths about nutrition, training. And then when you speak to somebody that they live and breathe this, for example, you or Barbara or your team, like this is all they think about. And they see a wide spectrum of people like me. And it almost like breaks down these like, oh, that's actually was completely false. Can we talk about some of those things that are, I guess, myths or common beliefs that were just probably, I don't want to say wrong, it's kind of so extreme, but the point is like we blow them out of proportion.
100%. So I think we can talk about one that like both you and I went through. So for example, that's like cutting carbohydrates, right? So carbohydrates is a store of basically like your energy. So as an entrepreneur, you have a lot of things to do. You don't want to have a lack of energy because you need to perform and do well. And I can tell you from my own personal experience, I've got into like really lean shape, let's say like sub 10% body fat by cutting out carbohydrates basically completely for 90 days.
So you have done that? Yep. Okay.
I have done that. And the problem is it's kind of like a self-fulfilling prophecy. So you do that and you say, well, it worked when I cut carbohydrates, so therefore that's the answer. But if you're going to eat carbohydrates at some point, you basically learned to do something that wasn't sustainable. So you didn't actually learn anything. And it's kind of like making money, right? So wealth accumulation is very different to wealth preservation. And so just because it worked in one way to be able to like cut the carbs to go get the body fat that you wanted, it doesn't mean that you're going to be able to have that same plan and continue that for decades to come. Likely as you can't, your body's not going to be able to function well. I also became like very irritable. My moods weren't as good. Energy levels were low. And then I would also binge eat as well because I had lack of energy. So my body's requesting for me to have either calorically dense foods to compensate for that lack of energy, or to get sweets, which is basically sugar to give me an instant release of energy.
It's so contrary to the stuff that we see on TikTok and Instagram and YouTube, and you scroll through and literally you can find like no carbs. I cut carbs. I got a 6-pack with no carbs. It's so common. And it is, and I'm not necessarily here to say that that's wrong. Like, I'm here to say that in my experience, I did that for ever since I was done playing college football for the past 10 years. And it worked, but then it didn't work. And it was like this pendulum that would swing back so hard after I come off of like, multiple weeks of doing like no carbs or very little carbs. And then for the past, 6 months, I've eaten more carbs on a daily basis than I have my like entire life probably. And then you lose weight and you also put on muscle, because you're just doing the right things. It's not about the carbs or not carbs. It's about the entire like plan essentially.
Exactly.
And it really comes out to like calories in, calories out at the end of the day. It's so interesting because there's probably people right now that they're probably just like I was. They're like, oh, I need to intermittent fast. I need to like not eat, until like 12 p.m. every single day. And I need to not eat after 5 p.m. And also I can't have any carbs. Like, gee whiz, it's so challenging to do that. It's not impossible, just fucking hard.
I also think like if you limit anything or restrict so heavily, you end up not being able to do it for a long period of time. It's as simple as that. Like, so for example, by cutting out the thing I enjoy eating most is sourdough bread with peanut butter. Now, if I'm just like cutting out carbohydrates, it means I can't have the thing I enjoy the most. Like, it makes much more sense to build the plan over things that you enjoy to do, that you can then maintain doing it, let's say 90% of the time with your eyes closed, versus forcing yourself to do something that, you know, over months or even years as a period, I will for sure have the urge to eat that bread. So it just doesn't make sense to cut it out. And it's actually good for you to have carbohydrates. It's just, there's very different sources, right? You've got French fries, and then you can have like healthier source of carbohydrates. So
brown rice,
very, very
oatmeal,
different.
quinoa.
Yeah. So very, very different types of carbohydrates you can have. But I think they get just like blacklisted.
They do. They absolutely do. And that's why you see like literally everything in the store, like it's positioned that way too, of like zero carbs or like net zero carbs and like all this stuff. Yeah. And
it is funny because it's like, I think then our parents' generation, they got told something different, which was like, you should have fat-free.
That's right. Yeah.
And then like our generation got told that we should have no carbs.
Mm-hmm.
There's
no protein coming next.
Yeah. Now it's a high protein thing. But I think like even then, like some people go way too much on the protein. It's just like you should be getting it from other macronutrients, those calories as well. So, and for the protein to function effectively, you need the carbohydrates to go alongside it, right? So there's a lot of things there. And I think, honestly, the school system does a really poor job at like showing people the importance of having food. And I think, or the right food, like I can tell someone unless you've actually experienced, and I think it's a challenge for our business, is that unless you've actually experienced what it feels like to perform your best, you don't really know what that is.
That's true.
And that's quite hard to then communicate to someone, like actually you're missing out on like 50% of your life and your energy that you should be able to have. The closest I can get to explaining that is like, imagine you're eating like McDonald's for like lunch and dinner. You feel slow, heavy, tired. Imagine you had the exact opposite feeling. And like people just don't even know what that is. But I think for me, when I had it and then got out of shape, that was a huge difference. And I even realized that the way I did it the first time, where cutting carbohydrates was like, felt even better than when I gained weight. So like, but then when I had like proper plans actually created for me that it was not just around like my body composition, but also my energy levels, my mood and things like that, and cognition, all of these types of things then helped me perform much better. And I realized that I was eating way more, I was happier, and I performed better and I looked better. So I was like, there was no reason to do what I was doing, right?
Yeah.
You can work hard or smart.
It's interesting. When I started working with you, I remember this feeling of, oh, this is a lot of food.
Yeah.
Like, this is way too much. There's no possible way I'm going to lose weight.
Yeah.
Look at all the oatmeal. Like, look at all like the brown rice. Like, this is way too many carbs. I was resistant mentally. I don't think I shared it with you, but I was resistant because I'm like, this is so contrary to what I've been doing for the past 10 years. And I've lost weight and I've gained weight and I've gained muscle and lost muscle like in the past 10 years. So like I thought I knew certain things. And then I'm like, as I'm eating this, I didn't feel starving either. That's the interesting thing. I was expecting to feel starving in order to have results, because that's how founders think. We think
no pain,
like,
no gain.
Exactly, no pain, no gain. Like that's how our entire life is built around that. Like we have to struggle, we have to sacrifice in order to get the result. And the more that we sacrifice, the better the result typically. And the more that we struggle, like the better the outcome. Yeah. And a lot of that is true in a lot of ways, but it doesn't have to be true all the time.
Yeah.
And so when I wasn't super hungry, I was hungry, but when I wasn't super hungry, did not think I was losing, like for example, a pound. And then I'd be like, oh yeah, that's interesting. That wasn't that hard.
Yeah. I mean, we get told that a lot of times, that people say they're eating way more and how can it possibly be? And I think it's just that a lot of people have been in such extreme deficits, starving themselves, thinking that that's what they need to do. But that's the reason they'll go and binge more after, because they're just going to compensate for the deficit that they created.
That's exactly right.
And so they just assume that they were losing weight when they were in such an extreme. It's like that self-fulfilling prophecy. When I starve, I lose weight, for sure. But what you don't realize that after you just consume more, and that's why you keep yo-yoing and you don't really make much progress. So the trick is good consistently over time equals great results.
Say that again.
Good consistently over time equals great results.
So what you didn't say was perfect consistently over time equals great results, or great consistently over time equals great results. You just said good.
Yeah.
Which is great.
Yeah, it's just
what equals good, for example, in a day?
I think it depends on the person and the starting point that they've got. So like if you're, let's say, obese and you're like really struggling, you don't need to actually make that many tweaks in order to be able to like get your body fat down. Whereas I think if you're trying to optimize, let's say going from like 10% down to 8%, you've got to do like some sacrifice to get to that point. And I think a lot of people believe that kind of that no pain, no gain type of scenario is just about making the right tweaks for the person that just continuously get them to have like the progress, right? Like to get your first sale as like a business owner, you don't have to be the greatest salesman on the planet. You just need to focus on getting that first sale. It's the same thing as like you want to drop those first like 5-10 pounds. If you're like really overweight, then you don't need to do that much to actually be able to do that. So we believe in just doing it so you can sustainably do it over time and introducing things over time versus doing like a complete overhaul. So you see a lot of people like January, New Year's resolutions, they last on average 6 weeks when they're going at it, all guns blazing. So
that means they sign up on January 1. We've heard this before.
Yeah.
January 1, and then they're done. Like midway through February, they're like completely back to their old self.
Yeah, it's gone. Like by now, they're all gone.
Wow.
And it's funny because it's just they went out the gate too excited. It's like you're going to start a marathon and you decided to sprint at the beginning.
Yeah.
You're not going to have the fastest time.
Yeah. That's very interesting.
Yeah.
Many people listening to this right now are, almost all of them are creators, entrepreneurs, businesses, as I mentioned. They struggle, just like you struggled with this. I struggled with this, of balancing, or I don't want to use the word balancing, integrating their family, their business, their social circle, and their health, nutrition, fitness.
Yeah.
It's such a challenging thing for our society. What are the things that they need to be doing, or what mindset shifts should they be having when it comes to the feeling of how do you have the time?
Yeah. So first of all, I think it's understanding that 80% of the results come from nutrition. So in reality, it takes you the same amount of time to eat something healthy versus something bad, right? Or let's say something going against your health goals. So it's kind of like, even if you're going to Uber Eat something, you can still make a healthy option. It doesn't mean we've got to order Five Guys, right? So I know it's going to take the same amount of time to get it delivered. So I think that's first of all, like really an important thing. It's not really about the time. I think another thing I'd say also, it's about the person's environment. So for example, if you work in an office and you work at home, you should have almost 2 plans that allow you to work, to have your nutrition dialed in if you're at home or if you're at the office, because it's a different environment. The other thing you want to also consider is your partner, your family, and how that integrates as well. So for example, you'll notice that if you have a healthy partner, you're likely to also exhibit healthy behaviors. Same thing if you've got healthy friends, like you're the average of the 5 people around you, right? Like we've heard that all the time. Similar thing here. So it's really important to obviously look at the behaviors that you have. So for example, like with your wife, it's understanding where does she like to eat normally? Where would she Uber Eats if she doesn't have much time? All of these types of things, then understanding what menu selection choices you should be making when she's doing that. So you can basically integrate your life, your nutrition and health within the lifestyle that you actually lead today. And I think that's really, really important. So like, rather than trying to do it as an isolated thing alone, because isolation means that you can only do it for a certain period of time.
The sustainability aspect is like, you need to get your tribe kind of rallying around you.
Yeah.
Is there situations where, because you have lots of customers and clients from all realms of the world and also cultures and everything.
For sure.
So different marriages are different. Let's say a spouse is supportive and sometimes the spouse is not supportive.
Yeah.
Speak from my experience, like Christina, my wife, is extremely supportive of like everything, first of all, but specifically with like food and nutrition. And also she's also an influence for me too, because she happens to be interested in this too. Like she was a kinesiology major. She was in PT, and she is fairly fit, very fit actually. My point is like, even after having 3 kids, my point is she's like the ideal for me, the supportive wife. Yeah. But I imagine not everybody has that supportive partner at home when it comes to stuff like this. And that makes another big challenge that I've never really experienced. How does somebody deal with this?
I think it's also involving them in the consultation that we have with our nutritionists, for example, to understand what do they like doing, what's important to them, because everyone's got different like goals and things like that, right? So it's really important to understand what that is and how we can integrate it in an easy way. I also think, let me think. So I've also found that, so that's one way, obviously trying to like get them to join. And there's another way that, honestly, if you go it alone, sometimes what I've found is that typically after 3 to 4 months, their partner usually asks to actually sign on to our service.
Oh, interesting.
So once you've made enough advancement, they start seeing it and think, maybe I should be doing that as well.
That's the ideal.
Yeah.
For everybody, like for the partnership, for
100%. And I think, but there's two things, right? Either they just like support you, and if they don't, actually you going ahead, typically we find a huge proportion of our clients 3 to 4 months later, they'll join on anyway. And then I think they join, and then the kids also later on experience like being healthier. They get to build good habits, let's say at a younger age versus like when they're 30, 40, 50, because that's a lot harder to do, right? Which is the reality of most of our clients today.
What is the cost of not being fit? Or maybe not fit. What is the cost of not, what is the cost of not being fit for a parent?
I would say it's your health, not being able to play with your children, maybe not being able to play with your grandchildren at a later age, not being able to like be mobile as you like start to age, shorter lifespan, not bringing your best self to everything that you do. And I think for like the audience that you have here, it's that like, these are people that want to achieve a lot. They want to do well and they want to set a good example. And I think being healthy is a big, big part of it. You don't want to be like remembered as the guy that was like overweight, that lacked energy, that had loads of health issues, especially when a lot of them can be prevented. Like I can even tell you with my father, like he had like pre-diabetes, just 2 months working with us, like we reversed that all naturally, just looking at nutrition and some exercise. So whereas if he was to have gone to a doctor, he'd basically be put on pills straight away.
It's very important for people like this, listening to this, and also myself, to remember that there's like these different pillars of wealth, right? And we think about wealth as like,
Money.
Assets minus liabilities, right?
Yeah.
But really it's like, it's for us, the way that I view it is it's location freedom, time freedom, financial freedom is like very big pillars of wealth. And there's this other one, which was like your health.
Yeah.
And that comes with two things. From in my head, the way that I frame it up in my head is like your physical health and then your mental health.
Yeah.
And you could throw in like your spiritual health too, depending on who you are. And I kind of group those in together. But I agree, it's extremely important to have that pillar, because the thing that I've always been wary of as I was building our companies is that the last thing I ever want to be is like super, super successful financially, super wealthy.
Yeah.
But like, shit, my health is just so bad, right?
And this is quite common, right? Like
very common.
And I think that's quite sad that a lot of people think they need to sacrifice their health to get the like financial goal that they might have. And I think that couldn't be further from the truth. Actually, being in better shape, you show up the best version of yourself.
It amplifies it.
For sure. So like, it's actually a trick to be able to do it. And a lot of people, I think they try to wait also for like that right moment. But in reality, the right moment is now. Like you never have enough time. Like you're a business owner trying to always grow. So you go from one problem to a bigger problem to a larger problem as you keep growing, right? So it's just, you just got to take care of it. The longer you wait, harder it is.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of times people will say, including myself, have said this multiple times in the past too, of like, oh, when I get to this point, I'm going to start to like figure out my workout plan or my nutrition plan. And I'm really going to dial it in. That's what I would tell myself. I'm really going to dial it in. And the answer needs to be like, not when, it's just like now. It needs to be just like,
it's
right
what
now.
Can I sustain now to do it? Because you can make progress. It's good consistently over time. Like Rome wasn't built in a day.
Totally. There was this thing where I think it was John Asseroff, that is, anyway, he mentioned this one thing on social media, and maybe it was one of his books. He was like, like a lot of times we skip a workout because we don't have the time. Yeah. Very common, right? And because I don't have 45 minutes or an hour to get the full quality workout. And he said I'm going to paraphrase this, but my takeaway was that's the most important time to just go in there for 5 minutes. Yeah. Just get the workout in for 5 minutes. Just get in there. And it's not really about the workout or the pump or the sweat or the calories burned even. It's just the idea that you're programming your body to just go.
It's the habits.
It's the habits, yeah.
I mean, that's like, we believe in that a lot. So we've got all the workout plans that we provide. We give like a short on time version for everybody as well. So if you haven't got the time, you just get it done. And I think it's also removing that all the decisions that take place for people that are busy, that usually treat it as a like secondary. So I think that works really, really well. Like we had one client that said to me, it's like, this is just like on autopilot when I do this, right? I didn't have time, I just do this. I'm going to go travel here, I just do this. So it's like, we build out the system that enables the person to do it consistently over time. Like I would say I've been training probably consistently for like 15 years, I would say.
Insane. What do you think the biggest, or I guess number one mistake that founders, creators, business owners make when it comes to the nutrition in their training plan?
Neglecting it. I think simply not taking action to just take care of themselves. Yeah, definitely that. I mean, the longer you wait, the harder it is. And you want to start building the habits as early as possible because it's just easier. Like look at a kid learning a language. It's much easier than like you or I trying to learn that now. So the earlier you start, the better it is.
How does it look when someone's neglecting like this? Does it mean just like, I'm just not thinking about it every day, or maybe I think about it once in a while, or I know that I should do that, but I'm not? Like, is that neglecting? Like, what is neglecting?
I think your health and your body is like the bank account that everyone can visibly see. They know exactly what you're consuming, what you're doing, and the lifestyle that you lead just by looking at you. And that's open for everyone. So you just know when you see an unfit guy that, you know, you don't assume that unfit guy is doing particularly well. It doesn't carry himself in the same way. You know that he's got less energy. He gets more tired. He's got less control over things that are going on. And I think that's a temporary state. It doesn't mean that it's got to always be like that. And we've got countless people that have like changed that. But what I do know is
that's the reality, is that that is the appearance that you're giving out.
Yeah.
Whether that's true or not, that's the next level, next layer. But that is the appearance that you're putting out. It's like, just because you drive a bad car doesn't mean you're a bad person.
No.
But you look like, okay, you're not taking care of your car.
Yeah.
Like, it looks like you just don't give a shit about washing your car.
Yeah.
And the paint job. And it's not that you're bad. It's more like, I have to figure out now if you're actually, you care about things inside of that car.
100%. And I do also believe a lot of the time it's like, it gives it an impression, if you don't take care of yourself, how are you going to take care of other people? Like, I can even talk about that from a personal perspective. Like, I was really anxious to try and make money when I was like in my 20s. And it was only until my business started like growing that I started thinking actually about other people. To be honest, at the age of 21, I was just, it was a selfish endeavor to just try and make money for myself. Then I started realizing, got to like say 10 employees, and I'm like, oh wow, we're actually paying for like their mortgage, them to like buy a house, like to rent something, to get married, all of these types of things. And you're like, this is the vehicle that our company is enabled to actually happen. And so I think you got to look after yourself first, right? If you're on a plane and the mask drops down, they tell you to put the mask on you first, not to put it on someone else, because you can't look after other people if you haven't looked after yourself.
It's so true. It's
that's
like,
step one.
I love that idea. It's a difficult thing because many people listening to this are so selfless. Like, they consider them selfless. And so therefore they will always sacrifice themselves first, their health first. They'll sacrifice their workout to go and like do this. They'll sacrifice like their eating clean to do this, and for their family, for their friends and all this stuff. But in reality, it needs to be flipped around a little bit. And someone needs to say, okay, by taking care of myself right now, I'm actually taking care of them. Yeah. And that's a challenging thing. It took me a while to grasp that, because you're gonna get pushed back a little bit too. Like,
but how do you feel now, obviously having like changed a lot, dropped like 20, 30 pounds to versus like what you were like before when we started like working together? How's the feeling changed in the way you portray yourself?
I believe in momentum. I believe in momentum. And so when I think about momentum, like when I was in my 20s or maybe teens, I had momentum to go, like I was getting in better shape. I was playing football, I was playing college football. I was very motivated to do that. And then when I got into my 20s, very motivated to like start my family, build a career, started to do that. I was also fit at that time too. I would consider myself fit. And then as soon as you start to like, life kind of throws things at you, you know, maybe you have a parent that like dies, and maybe you have like a business that's like, it fails, and you start another one, it fails again. Like, you have these stressors in life that kind of kill some certain momentum. And pretty soon you start to like have these crutches, I guess you could say. And so it kind of like chips away at your confidence a little bit. Like, I say that I'm this person. I say that I'm doing these things. I say that I'm motivated and I care about all these people, and I care about how I show up every day. But my behavior is not reflecting that care. And for me, the momentum shift when it was going, I would say health was kind of, I wouldn't say it was going down. I wasn't an unhealthy person. I don't think anyone would say that. But I felt like I wasn't doing my highest potential self type of behavior. And so for me, I felt like the momentum was going down. And so when, like, for example, when we started working together, the momentum started to shift from that perspective. And when you have momentum shift from a health perspective, it bleeds into everything else, which is very nice. It bleeds into your relationship. It bleeds into with my wife. It bleeds into my relationship with my son who's 6, my daughter who's 4, and they're seeing me in the gym. They're seeing me eat clean. They're seeing my wife and I meal prep, you know, eat stuff that's clean. It starts, all of a sudden my sisters are talking to me about health and wellness, and like they're talking to me about their workouts. They're sending me screenshots of them working out, right? So it's so much bigger. It ripples. Like your momentum is rippling constantly. And it also is the contrary. If you are not eating clean, and if you're not taking care of yourself, if you're not really the type of person to work out, that will ripple too. 100%. Your kids will see that, and they will absolutely.
And you're building their habits in that way,
absolutely
right?
Are.
So you lead by example. I mean, everyone knows kids copy, right? So everything you do, they copy.
They won't tell you, they won't do what they say. What you say do. They're going to do exactly what mom and dad did. And
you can tell them not to swear, but if you're swearing all the time, they're going to swear too.
100%. And they might even be working out with you. For example, like my kids will see me in the gym, and they'll like go in there and they'll mess around and stuff, and we'll do like a little fun thing, and then they're gone. But the point is, they saw me in there. That's the key. They just saw me in there. Where's Dad? Oh, he's probably in the gym.
In the same way you want them to know that hard work is important, you've got to put the effort and you display that. You also need to do the same thing for your health. You want your kids to be healthy, right? Everybody does. Not one parent, I don't think, wants that. So, I lead by example, right? And I think even for your team, like the way you simply convey yourself is so different. Like you're more confident when you walk into a room. Like that feeling is insane. I think we had like one client that said to me, I didn't see myself as that gym guy. And he's like, a year later, he's like, I am now that gym guy, right? Which is kind of like, even had like an identity shift that like really changed. And when I look at the photos of like their progression, like each week we ask you to send photos of your like front, side and back so we can look at progress. You see the posture change, even the way they're standing. Like if I was just to cut their body out and just look at their face, I can see that they're more confident from it.
That's very interesting. I completely understand that.
And that's really nice to see. Like you'll even notice that like, then they take care of their hair more. Like they're, like you see a lot of the photos, you know, like before, after type thing. You look online, you go, that looks like a bit weird, doesn't look right, but like maybe it's fake and whatnot. But when I look at them like week on week, I see that they start taking care of certain things. And like even now, we see some people that have literally gone and like, they like, hey, do you know a stylist that can help me like buy new clothes? Because none of them fit anymore, right? That's actually one of the coolest things that like we get asked. And I had like one client of ours that like he got put on the board of like a NASDAQ listed company after exiting his business, and he went and bought a suit. He went and got a haircut, like a tailored suit, got a haircut, and then even bought a watch to go alongside and celebrate it. And it's kind of like, it's the image that he's been able to like now create and like change things. Like he's leading by example with his son and like all this type of stuff. And it's amazing to see that now he like cares about those things. Whereas before I think it's maybe like a neglect thing. Yeah.
I want to ask you another question here that I have from the community, actually. So what I did is I posted on our EverBee community, and I just asked, hey, I'm talking to Anthony today, and we're going to be talking about like these type of problems. Okay. What kind of questions do you have? And I got a really good question I wanted to call out. And it's a more practical question. Okay. For founders, for entrepreneurs, for builders, for creators, what are the top 3 tips, I guess you could say, practical tips? Because we're talking like theory a lot today, right now, but like the practical stuff that somebody can take away with right now. When it comes to steps, number of steps, nutritious meals, like just an example of a meal, how much water intake, on days when someone's like, it's a productive day, it's a work day today, like I have to be on it today, and they're working for the entire day. An example of this person would be like, hey, maybe they're on camera all day. Sure. They're just, it's, you know, you don't have a lot of breaks, like whatever it is. Or maybe they're literally designing in front of a computer, or they're designing their business or designing designs for their products today, or phone calls back to back to back. Sure. What can that person be doing when it comes to steps, water intake? What should they be eating on that day?
Cool. So I would say, first of all, let's just assume you don't have any time whatsoever. So what you can do is habit stack things to other things that you do. So for example, let's say if we're looking at steps, if you brush your teeth 2 times a day, most people are told brush your teeth 2 times per day for 2 minutes each time. That's 4 minutes. If you walk when you're brushing your teeth, you've walked 28 minutes extra per week. That's half an hour a week. which is actually quite a lot of time, right? Whereas maybe you'd be unable to carve out 30 minutes of walking, but you're going to brush your teeth anyway, or you should. So I think that's one thing. The other thing you can do is like, what I do is like, if I look at, I try to find recurring meetings that I've got. So imagine like a one-on-one with your team, or something like this that you look to do that maybe you're not going to be, let's say, client facing. You can then go for a walk while doing that meeting at the same time. So you can do 30 minutes, 1 hour, and that will just add up those steps that you're trying to do. So I would say like you should really be for like health benefits anywhere between like about 8,000 plus, 10,000 plus if we want to start like trying to like drop body fat. But again, I think it starts from like whatever your baseline is also. So it's just, if you're doing like 2,000, just try go like 3,000, right? So just build that up over time. You don't have to go for like the perfect scenario immediately. I mean, no, I know even you and I, like when we want to like catch up and we're walking around us, maybe we'll call each other and we both go for a walk at the same time, right? So trying to do those things and like integrating those healthy habits within your life.
And sometimes I'll call, like, for example, I'll call my mom when I'm walking. Yeah. Versus in the past, I would probably just call my mom when I'm on the couch. Yeah.
And you know what? The conversation's probably going to be better.
Way better.
You have more creativity when you're walking out, especially if like you're outdoors as well. So I think that's really good. I also have like a walking treadmill as well that I just stick under my like standing desk. And I'll typically like force myself to do that. Don't really enjoy doing it that much, but I'll get them in anyway. Sure. And I think in London where I live, like sometimes the weather isn't so great, so you don't want to go outside to do it. So that's the alternative that I'll do if not. So I think
8,000 to 10,000 steps per day would be ideal. But an improvement of where you are today is great as long as it's consistent over time.
That's all you got to do. Yeah, cool. Just slightly increase that.
Okay.
So I think that's quite important. So habit stack. I would say, in terms of food, I would say one of the most important things to do is to try and think about the backup. So think about like, so a lot of people, they'll get a plan and it's simply just like follow this plan. They go from plan A to plan F. So they're doing really great and then they do really bad, right? And unfortunately the bad outweighs the good. Like we've all tried to eat good 5 days a week during the weekday and then the weekend go off track. And then we look for the week's progress and go like, where did that go? So you know that the poor choices outweigh the good ones, unfortunately. So what we want to do is think about how we can turn that F into even a B or a C. Doesn't have to be A, just B or C. And when we're doing A, we just have A and B and C mixed together versus A and F, which you're going to get really not much progress on. So for example, like know when you're in the office or if you're at home, wherever you're working, that you know what are like say 3, 4, 5 good Uber Eats options that you could get. When you don't have time, you just simply have that ordered. Absolutely zero effort to do. I think that's something I would recommend. Another thing is just simply have like water bottles around you and just get like an idea of like how much you're like basically drinking. You can work with the nutritionist to even find out exactly how much you basically should be consuming as well per day, depending on like the lifestyle that you lead, right? So if you're larger, you should consume more. If you're like sedentary, you don't need as much, that type of thing, right?
What would you say for like the bingers out there, asking for a friend?
Yeah.
People that they go hard and then they like go hard the other way too, right? Like there's like, I'm going to be extreme. I'm going to be like perfect.
Yeah.
I'm going to be perfect meals.
Yeah.
This entire week. And it is perfect. And then all of a sudden they fall off and then they binge the other way. And then all of a sudden they like squander all the results.
Yeah. So I think I was one of those people before. I would say it's about understanding like why you binge and why you're doing that. So for example, one of the things that we do at Daily Body Coach is we ask you to send photographs of all the food you're eating directly to a nutritionist so they can educate, guide, and hold you accountable. But at the same time, they build a food log and a diary for what you're doing. And when you go off track, we try to understand like why you've done that. Whereas a lot of people in the fitness industry just tell you try harder. But motivation is something that goes up and down over time. I can tell you for me, sometimes I don't want to work out or like more tired a particular day. So it's a normal thing for you to go through. So you don't want to depend on motivation. You want to depend on like making it really easy for you to follow. And for me, for example, what I would do is I would stress eat. So typically stress was driven by work. So what I would do is simply like, I would order in like, let's say McDonald's, Five Guys, things like that. And I would eat that in front of the computer at the same time while working because I was stressed and I was like, I need to get this done. What I found out was that I went back on my health goals while eating alone. And not even eating like the best quality food in terms of like taste. And so what I learned was basically it's okay to go off track, but you need to like consciously do it and actually enjoy it in another way. So like it doesn't make sense to go back on your health goals to eat plain food when you don't enjoy it. But it does if you're going to go to like a fancy restaurant and celebrate something, then why not? Your body's supposed to help you live a good life, not limit your life.
I love that.
Yeah, so that, I think it's like that was a big mindset shift for me. I think everyone's an individual basis, but that's the one that I had to work through. So I will still eat Five Guys, but I'll do it consciously and I'll do it with people, and I won't do that alone.
What is Spogo?
So
what was it about that?
Yeah, so we helped e-commerce retailers to automatically bundle products together that were typically high margin. So for example, if we were selling, let's say, an iPhone, we'd recommend a case or a screen protector to go alongside.
All online.
All online. We actually started moving into physical store as well. So we had a few customers before I sold that company.
What's an example of a store that you customer?
So let's say, for example, in a consumer electronics store, you would have like people that were specialized in certain areas. So like this would be the guy that sells like laptops. This would be the girl that would be like focused on like smartphones or cell phones. And they would have their own like categories that they would look after. Sometimes you go in the store and there'll be like no one there available. You would have to wait. And what we would do is put like tablets in the physical store. So like right by the laptop, it would say, these are the exact bags that fit that particular product.
Okay. Yeah.
So you can just go and get it based on stock level of that.
Complementary products or,
Yeah.
Okay.
And those items typically have high margin. So they can have like, even like 70% gross margins or plus.
You didn't have to acquire the customer, like the customer's already there. It's like you're just literally increasing AOV, average order value.
Yeah. And the margin in that order. And so that would be like products, services, and warranties.
Interesting. Let's talk about that journey.
Yeah.
A little bit. First of all, why did you even start that company? And then what age were you around that, and how long did you do it? Yeah.
So
let's try to go back in history a little bit.
I was working like part-time doing IT support, like while at university, like just during my summer holidays. I worked every single summer that I was legally allowed to.
Okay. In London?
In London, yeah.
Okay.
And people would basically ask me questions about what product to buy. So like, hey, can you recommend me a laptop? What phone should I get? Or cell phone, as you guys say, like all of this type of stuff. So I would find that it took me a long time to find the right product for someone if I really wanted to care and give them the right recommendation. So you read reviews, understand their requirements, go watch YouTube videos, and like, or maybe even go into the physical store. And all of these types of things then say, go buy this product. And I thought there should be an easier way for people to be able to do that. So I started out with like a B2C product, which I think, honestly, a lot of like first-time entrepreneurs start out with, like just because it's a personal experience that you encounter, and that's where you start. Especially if you hadn't had any professional experience, which was like me. I was pretty much like, I'd never had a real job until I sold my company, and I was employed by the company that bought mine, right? So so we started with that, and basically what we would do is you'd ask a series of questions about a particular product when you logged on our website. So what do you want to use that laptop for? What's your budget? Any specific brands, any features that you like? And based on those responses, we'd say, go buy this laptop from these stores that are available around. So that was a B2C product. I was at the age of around 21. And then what I noticed was that it was really difficult to get that to turn into like actually cash and monetize it. So
why did you even start the business, you think? Like, why did you go? Because entrepreneurship is a hard path, right?
Yeah.
Sometimes it's the path it's the only option for a lot of people. But why did you choose this path first? At an early age?
Yeah, so I knew I wanted to be an entrepreneur since the age of around like 10 to 12. And the reason was like my parents put a lot of money for me to go to be privately educated, but they couldn't afford to keep me there. So like after 2 years, I was pulled out. And my best friend at the time at school, his father was an entrepreneur, and I would see that he would come to school in like cool cars. He had like the best cell phone, and mine wasn't as good. He had a jog-proof Walkman, and mine would skip when I'd run with it. So all of these kind of things. It wasn't like I lived like a tough life, but there was a comparison that was there. And I thought, why does he have this and I don't? And why do I need to get pulled out of school? And so after finding out that his father owned like 5 glass factories and he made like good amounts of money, it started really there, like actually mainly financially driven.
You were inspired, yeah.
100%. And I wanted to be like, that was going to be me one day. And if I want to send my kids to wherever they want to go, I don't want to have to pull them out. In hindsight, I think it was one of the greatest things, me actually getting pulled out. So
of course,
it allowed me to work with a wide spectrum of people from all different backgrounds, which I thought was really, really good. It got me to see what that could be, and being taken out gave me the hunger. So yeah, honestly, like I would say it was driven financially. Like, yeah.
Are you still in touch with that friend at all, or that friend's father?
No, not really. No,
not really.
No.
Okay, interesting. I wonder if that father knows the impact that you had.
Yeah, I'm going to tell him.
Yeah, that'd be interesting. because we always have these people that inspire us, but we don't really share with them eventually. And you're probably inspiring somebody right now.
Yeah.
And a kid, or maybe a young person, or maybe someone that's listening to this podcast. And people don't send the message, but they should send the message and say, hey, like that one episode when you said that one thing, that like changed my trajectory.
Yeah, 100%.
I do this occasionally with people that took a meeting with me when I had no business meeting with them, and no business meeting with them. And I sent him a message on LinkedIn. I think about this one guy, Ken, his name was, and I sent him a message just the other day on LinkedIn. Wasn't sure if he was still alive. He was an older gentleman. I think he had a little bit of health issues at the time too, and sent him a message and just like, hey man, like, just want to let you know, like 10 years ago, I don't know if you remember me, but like you took a meeting with me in your office and you gave me like life advice and also business advice.
Yeah.
And you didn't have to take that meeting. Literally was no upside for him, but he literally changed. Like there was a piece of my life that changed from that conversation. And I just wanted to share that with him. No idea how much he appreciated that. I think that he did. He responded back. He's still around.
Yeah.
And I just know that I would appreciate that if some person sent me a message.
100%. I actually had a conversation with someone. I think it's like you start giving back. I think that's one of the interesting things is like especially in Europe, as a lot of people would see like, if you have money, maybe you're not as good person, or you've done something maybe like perhaps wrong, right? And that can be further from the truth. What I've noticed is that people typically that like get to achieve what they need, they can be more selfless because they don't need to look after themselves anymore so much. Like there's not so much of a need, right? It's like Maslow's hierarchy of needs. You're just like taking care of each of the pillars that you have. So you can help a lot of other people. Like I spend quite a bit of time, like if somebody writes me like a good cold email or something like that, and I see they've put effort into it, I'll usually take it, even if there's nothing really to gain from it for me, right? But I think actually there is, like actually helping somebody, you feel good by that. And I had a conversation where a guy reached out to me, he's called Luke, and he was like, he's working a job with a young guy, like in his young 20s, and he wanted to start a company, but he wasn't kind of like ready to do it. He wasn't sure. And I said to him, kind of like tough love, I said to him, like, I'll never take a meeting with you again until you start your business. When you do, call me. Probably about 6 months went by. He calls me and said, I've done it. And then now like I'm helping him like with his business and things like that. And I think, you know, you change the trajectory of someone's life, and like his business actually is doing pretty well. So that's quite nice to see.
Amazing, man. When do you think that you, like on this journey that you had, and you're inspired by this dad, and you grow up and you're building this business, did you ever have any hesitancy that you might not make it, or I wonder if I'm going to make it? And then what did make it mean to you? Was it a millionaire? Was it a net worth amount? Was it a dollar amount in your bank account? Was it cash flow? What was important to you, you think, at that time? I know it changes and this evolves over time, but what was it at that time? Yeah,
I mean, I would say, honestly, I believed that I would always make it. I was so driven / delusional, whatever you want to call it, but like, I felt like I had no option but to make it. And no matter what, I've got to do it. Like, I think I had a fear of failing.
So you did have a fear of failing?
I did have a fear of failing, yeah, definitely. But so much so that it was just
you
overcompensated. This is not even an option. Like, this is not going to happen to me. And if they say like 9 out of 10 of businesses fail, I was like, what's to stop me being that one? So I actually got asked by one of my angel investors, the last company. He said to me at the age of 22, he said to me, what happens if you fail? And I responded, you know, young guy, really quickly back and said, I'm never going to fail. And I actually believe that you don't really fail, you learn, and over time you just keep going, right? So you didn't fail at becoming a millionaire if you had to close down 3 businesses. It's like in the end you got there, so congratulations, right? I think it's just keep going and like learn, and every time you get better and stronger. Like I can see the traction in my last company that I was running versus now doing it the second time with the learnings I've got. It's 100 times easier. You know more what you're doing. You can work a lot smarter versus just like crazy hard. So yeah, I think I think I was inspired actually a lot by podcasts. So being really young, like as a teenager, every single day, and even like to this day, I listen to an hour of podcast every single day, 7 days a week, no matter what. So even like going out to college and, like going out partying or something like that, it became such a habit that when I'd come back home, like even at 3, 4 a.m., I would put on a podcast. Couldn't hear anything, but I would still have that on.
Basically what you're doing is you're surrounding yourself with people you want to be like. And the podcast, for example, they're probably around money and wealth and business success and
all
health.
of it.
Yeah. So naturally, it's almost like you're emulating those guys being your friends.
100%. I felt that.
I think that's what we get that once in a while from people listening to this. It's like, oh, I just feel like I'm there with you guys. And I remember the same exact impact that those podcasts had on me, and they still do to this day.
Yeah.
I'm just like, that influenced me.
But yeah, like for me, I think podcasts was one of the ways that I could learn reactively. So it's kind of like I could just consume information. And I think that was really, really important. And then I would leverage books to learn specific things that I needed.
Go deeper.
Yeah. So for example, like I had one issue where I lost a third of my business in the last company. And so I went to study customer success and about like retention. And over a weekend, I read like 2 books, studied all of them. And I had a notebook by the book and just wrote down everything on how that applies directly to me. Mm-hmm. The Monday came round. I restructured basically the entire company, like cleared out roughly around a third, changed the processes, did things. And then the following year we had 100% customer retention. So
very interesting.
So I would use that for acquiring knowledge. And I think books, or even like podcasts and things like that, it's kind of like they condense years of knowledge into a really short time frame. Mm-hmm. And podcasts are pretty much free, right? Generally. So there's no reason why you can't get access to it and like just spend the time to listen to it. And in dead time, like I would always listen to it like going to bed. So no matter what, I would still hear it.
Totally. And now you can do it when you do your steps.
Yeah, exactly.
When did you make your first million? At what age?
So like in cash, I was 31 years old. So I only really managed to get that when I sold my company. Up until then, it's like everything went back into the business.
Yeah, like the company was worth probably
it was worth
more
millions,
than that, but millions for a significant amount of time. But like you didn't actually liquidate any of it until you sell.
Like probably like in the millions, like with like on paper, let's say like 7 years, 8 years before that. But it wasn't real.
Sure.
And until I could like really get it out. And I mean, I think it's interesting because I think one of the things that I learned from what I did is that I had that same belief that you have to suffer to get results. Same thing like with the health, but I did that with money. So I kind of like starved myself and think I didn't deserve to have that money. But a lot of the times, especially when I think like when I first started the company, quite honestly, it was to make money the first time. But I wasn't drawing out money. So that doesn't really make that much sense. So like now when I look at it, I think you should draw out money. At least it's something that I'm trying to like work on. Like even today, for example, I put all the money straight back in again, but I'm also in a very different financial situation than I was before. So
yeah, I think a lot of people, it's just interesting to talk about it because there's people right now, they're starting their business and at least I grew up in blue collar type of businesses, and a lot of my family and my friends and friends' parents, they all owned like blue collar type of businesses. Talk HVAC, contracting, like that type of work, right? And they pulled money out too soon. So it's an interesting thing. It's like they milked the business way too early, and they were trying to live off of revenue, the company's revenue, and not the company's profits even. Yeah, it's even worse. That's but it's just lack of knowledge, lack of understanding, and probably a lack of discipline too. All those things, and it turns into a big mess of stress, and it gets labeled. Business is hard. Business is like, it's impossible. Like it's stressful, and actually turned me away from entrepreneurship for many years. Okay, interesting. Because I saw that all the downside to entrepreneurship. Yeah, they didn't call it entrepreneurship. They just called it like owning your own business. You're a business owner, small business owner. Yeah, and I saw like all of the downsides with it. I saw the upsides. In hindsight, I see the upsides now of like they had the flexibility to go to like school events, to a game. Very appreciative for all those things. It did unlock those things. But there was lots of financial downsides to it. But it's interesting because I look back at like these business owners, and I still look at them today. The ones that I see, they have a great business. Yeah. They're just, the finances aren't managed properly. And if they just manage the finances properly, it's a great life all of a sudden. Yeah. It's a great life.
They just need to go find someone that understands it and ask for help, right? And what's crazy
and then do
is
it. And then do it. Not only ask and then do it help.
I think what's crazy is that a lot of successful people, like we've said, they want to help other people. They generally do, and they get kind of a feeling from that. Like when you're running a business, generally speaking, I would say a lot of people, you want to help your employees, you want them to grow. At least you should. So ask enough people and someone's going to like reach out and actually help you. So you had that, I had that. Everybody's had somebody that's just helped them. So, but if you don't ask, you don't get.
I love that. I want to switch back to DBC a little bit, from not necessarily the service perspective, but actually the business perspective.
Sure.
And feel free to share what you're comfortable sharing. Just to explain what DBC actually is. DBC, Daily Body Coach.
Yeah.
Well, how do you describe it when somebody asks about what it is?
Sure. So we're a premium online coaching service to help entrepreneurs get into the best physical shape and perform their best.
So you only focus on entrepreneurs in this case?
Entrepreneurs and executives, yeah.
Okay, so executives meaning like a VP or a director level person, high performer essentially.
High performers, yes, exactly. So those are the people that we help. The reason we do that is they typically have less time, more stress. And we look to help those people.
Because you're just good at that.
Because we're good at that. And I think like with running my previous company, I learned that it wasn't plans that worked, it was systems that worked. And I think there aren't many, honestly, I would say like good entrepreneurs that have gone through the actual journey that know how to do that. And that's kind of the unique angle that I can help with. And then applying expert knowledge across training and nutrition to help them within that system deliver for that type of target audience.
How do you describe an entrepreneur? And like, how would you describe it right now? To fit into
a business owner. I mean, generally, because of a higher price point, like we work typically with like more successful entrepreneurs.
Define success.
Define success. Well, it'd be more like financial because you have to be able
as long as they can afford it,
the service.
Essentially.
Yeah.
Because it's a very white glove service. Like you literally have a team.
Correct.
You have people that you can text and they can text you back. It's not like this portal where you log in and you have to like do this stuff and it's like an empty thing. It's like you literally get interaction multiple times per day.
Yeah, exactly. So I think like when I look at it, it's like we've got 3 pillars to what we do. So you've got training plans that adapt to your available time and location. So for example, if you're going to, let's say, travel somewhere, we'll check what's in the gym at the hotel or where's the gym nearby to where you're going to go. If you don't have time to make it to the gym, what can you do at home instead? And so like making that thing, kind of what we were saying is that like that the habit always takes place. No matter what, you're going to do the workout. Just depends how long, but we're always getting it in. So I think that there's that. And really on the high end, to be honest, like our clients at max really train 4 hours a week, which is a couple of % of your entire week. So it's really not much of a time commitment, given the feeling that you get and the output that you're going to get. Like imagine it's 2% of your working week or your week, sorry. You don't think by being fit that you can get 2% more. It's nothing, 2%.
Why, and kind of going back to the business model, I guess, and all this stuff is what's the game plan? Like inspire the other business owner right now listening to this, like, oh, it's an online business. That's very interesting. I never thought about like bringing the physical training plus nutrition stuff online. There's probably other things that they can do right now. What is attractive to this type of business model that you've chose?
I think for me this time, so the other business I kind of fell into it. I just saw an opportunity and then I decided to just take one because I wanted to start a business. This time I was much more intentional about what I was going to start. So
what went into that framework of thinking?
Who do I want to spend time with? Who do I resonate most with? And then what's important to me? The previous company, what was important to me was purely financial. So that was like, I actually was willing to crawl over glass to get whatever I needed.
As long as you saw the opportunity for money, then you're okay with it.
It didn't matter. Okay. And in hindsight, there were easier things to do to make money, but you know, like
sure, of course, hindsight.
But that's what I thought at the time. This time, I thought the people I really enjoy spending time with are high performers. I resonate with them. I like them. And I also have a competitive advantage, having done what I've done, to be able to access that community as well. So that's also...
You have a little moat for yourself. Yeah,
exactly.
You carved out.
That a normal trainer or a normal nutritionist, they can't get into that, like, quote unquote, like,
because they haven't necessarily sold a company. They haven't built a company that's worth millions.
Yeah.
And that does make you unique, right? Because you understand that high performer on a deeper level than just the financial. I'm sorry, just the health and wellness aspect of things,
like,
which are important.
Live their life, right? Yeah. So they know what you're doing, and there's many like touch points as you go through like our service that people go, oh wow, you really know what you're doing, right? So I'm not just like a trainer or a coach.
It's very interesting. I agree with that. Like that's something that actually attracted. I know we were friends before.
Yeah.
I signed up for DBC, but that was an attractive thing of like, at least they get it. At least they get kind of how I operate, and they don't just get it from like they read the book and they read the like they actually living that life.
I know the playbook, right?
Yeah.
And I think that helped us like from the beginning to kind of start knowing what we're doing. And I kind of guess that's like similar to somebody starting with like industry expertise, having worked in the industry first, then doing it. Whereas my previous company, I was just at college and then I just started something, right? So I didn't really have any
when I built
prior
EverBee,
experience.
Exactly. I mean, when we started EverBee, like I lived that e-commerce life. Like we targeted e-commerce. I sold on Shopify. I sold on Amazon, FBA. I sold on eBay, and then I sold a lot on Etsy. Not only sold a little bit, but I actually sold a lot across those platforms, relatively speaking. And I understood all the pain points, which gave me that unique competitive advantage.
You're going to get traction faster,
I'm going to get traction faster. I just understand the main problems versus like, I think we need to do this feature and this feature, this feature. A lot of that stuff is noise.
Yeah.
Let's get down to the main thing that our customers care about. And that's what you're doing with DBC, it seems like.
100%. And I think...
I want people to learn that because a lot of times everyone has a competitive advantage in something. Mm-hmm. You just have to look for it, develop it, and think about it, I think. And it takes a lot of time to get there.
Like 100%. And I think that's really interesting because it's like we all have it. You just need to like really think about what it is that
Flex
you
the
are.
muscle. You have to engage the muscle.
So I mean, one part was that obviously like that was important, that people I would surround myself with. Like you're the average of the 5 people you surround yourself with, right? I want to be around high performers, people that are doing well, that care about what they're doing, and they also care about themselves. I like that. I have the most fun with those types of people, and I resonate with them. The other side of it is, honestly, like, what's the point in having money if you don't have health? So even running a business in this area, I must lead by example. There is no option. So even on a selfish level, I really like that. And so I need to set an example to my clients so they can live that way. So other people can also, like their family, their employees, and their children can all like also follow by that as well. So I really, really like that. And this time, it doesn't just have to be the Anthony show anymore, right? Like, so I made my money, like I've kind of like got a certain level of comfort in my life that now I can really kind of like give back and do things. But interestingly, by actually like thinking about that, it made me get traction like much faster anyway. So I mean, I can tell you that like last month we added $250,000 ARR to our business. So
what is ARR for people that don't listen?
Annual recurring revenue. So basically like your monthly subscriptions times by 12.
Let's say, so you pay $100 a month, for example.
Yeah.
100 times 12 is $1,200 ARR.
Exactly. Correct.
Okay. $250,000.
Yeah.
Congrats.
Thank you, man.
Is that your biggest month?
Sorry?
Is that your biggest month?
It's our biggest month, yeah. Obviously January is like it's a pretty big month, right?
Yeah,
but
it's February right now. That's
true. But really we're starting to get like the marketing motion done well. So like it's interesting because if I look back, my previous company, I grew exclusively using outbound sales, like everything doing outbound sales. And referrals was actually a small part of our business because we largely worked with like mid-market and enterprise retailers that they didn't want their competitors to know what their advantage was. So they didn't want to share it. So the referral that we would kind of get would be somebody would leave after on average 2 years, one company to go work at another and then bring us across. But that takes a really long time to be able to like grow in that way. I know that if I was to do a company growing, doing like sales again, like outbound sales, that would be the fastest way of doing it because that's my skill set. This time we're growing through like marketing. So it's a very different thing, but I just enjoy the challenge. So that was a conscious decision that I made, knowing that I'd probably get slower traction at the beginning because I've got to learn a new skill set, but I just wanted to learn something new as well.
Interesting. Do you find that, I'll frame this question first. A lot of times early stage companies, they have a product, they have a service, for example, in your case, and what they say is, I'm going to develop a marketing plan. I'm going to go after TikTok, and I'm going to go after Instagram, and also LinkedIn. I'm also going to do outbound sales, and then I'm also going to do this like referral program too. How do you view this? And what mistakes do you think that person right there that I just framed up for you is making?
I think never spread yourself too thin. Just think about everything starting from the customer of like where they are and how you help them. That's the first thing. and then double down on basically like what works. Don't spread yourself too thin, because you can't be an expert at absolutely everything until you've got like the resources over time to hire experts in each of those areas. So I would say don't spread yourself too thin.
So almost like, hey, Anthony, my plan is to post on TikTok, Instagram, social, YouTube, and also like this other thing.
Yeah.
You would tell me, hey, you need to like stop doing all of those things probably and just pick one probably.
Yeah, do like pick one, move to the next one, learn how to test different things. But you know, just really think about it. Where are they? What do they do? Really understand them. Like for example, for me, it was really easy to understand my client base because I was one of them, or I am one of them, right? Yeah. So kind of
same.
Yeah, that makes it 100 times easier, honestly. So yeah, think about what your competitive advantage is, and everything from then will like lead on. Like I was even helping like my younger cousin, like he was starting like a tech company and then like doing like loads of different things, and he was struggling to find like traction. And he never really worked anywhere. So if you ask him like, so what's your competitive advantage? He was like, I don't really know. He doesn't believe he had one.
I think many people probably would answer the same exact way.
Yeah.
I would have probably years ago.
But you still have one. So for him, for example, there's a lot of, so he's like, he comes from from Macau, which is like a small place next to Hong Kong. And so I said to him like, okay, cool. So you've gone through university. You happen to be born as somebody from like Macau, but you live in London. So what's your competitive advantage even with that, right? So it's like, what about if you created a business that served wealthy students that come from internationally, like from, let's say, like China and other places like that? You made a concierge service for them. That's a huge advantage, because if you speak their language and other people don't, that's a massive moat. And so being able to actually like, without having any experience, just by like the life that you led, you've got an advantage that other people can't like replicate. So like now he's seeing like very quick traction on it. You know, like within like a week of work, he's already like, wow, I'm actually making more money than what I was doing before. And I've been doing this for like years. So I think that's, if you dig deep enough, you'll find what that is. And you can even just ask other people, like, what do you think I'm good at? If you're maybe not so good at, you know, reflecting on yourself, because that's a lot harder than someone else commenting on it.
I love it.
Yeah.
What advice would you give to someone trying to start a remote, like service-based online business? Because a lot of times people listen to this right now.
Yeah.
They are mostly product-based. Yeah. I would say, if I were to say 80% of them, meaning that they sell a physical product, or they do print on demand, if you're familiar with print on demand model, which is product-based, right? Yeah. Or they'll sell a digital product, but it's still product, right? Like they sell a template of some sort, or a group of templates. But not a lot of online service-based companies.
Yeah.
So what advice would you give to them to like, is that even a good model for someone to even consider?
I would say service-based businesses are something that you can get your revenue up like pretty quick.
What's an example of a service business? Let's start there.
So let's say like, I mean, even Daily Body Coach providing like an online trainer and an online nutritionist for somebody, selling your time to be able to like serve somebody. I would say like, a lot of time, especially me coming from like software as a service, you look at service business and people look down on them, right? So like, you're like, oh, you can't make as much money with them. I think actually,
because of scalability and there's challenges. Yeah.
Exactly.
There's challenges.
But nowadays you've got a lot of technology that can help you and things like that I don't believe that that's really the case. So there's actually like a bit of an opportunity there. I noticed that a lot of the angel investors and people that had money to like help me fund my last company, a lot of them were making money in like service-based businesses that I would like
what's an example
discount,
of that?
Like even like a marketing agency or like something like this.
There you
right?
go. Marketing agency,
yeah. So a lot
or
of
video editing agency.
Yeah. And so like those types of things, you can like usually get like a few clients, especially if it's in like your area of expertise. Like you used to do marketing before, you start consulting doing it, then you get more clients and you have like now an agency, right?
Or a design agency. I'm thinking of like a designers. Like a lot of people listening to this are like designers.
Yeah,
for
sure.
They're really good at like designing products or designing designs. Some of them are a design creation service. Anyway.
Yeah. So I would say like try and like use your service. I think it's probably the best one. Like for me personally, I use Daily Body Coach. And another thing was like really thinking about every single question someone has, you want to remove the friction. That's a friction point. You want to always remove all of those to keep like providing a better service. So don't think like that's not such a big deal. Focus on, I believe in actually that if you do like enough of the details and take care of them, that overall the experience is going to be much better.
I agree with you.
Like what we do in the fitness and nutrition space, there's no one that can compare to us. I didn't mention before, but we had like kind of the training plans. Then we do a nutritionist that you send photographs of every meal that you're eating, so they educate, guide, and hold you accountable. And then we have a concierge service that adapts everything to whatever life throws in your way. So like if you're going to travel, you go to a restaurant, what to pick off the menu, we'll take care of all of those logistics for you.
Yeah. And the point is you're just working, you're starting with the ideal, the platonic version of the service. Like what would be the best version of this service? Yeah. And then you're working backwards from there and you're just designing it.
Exactly. Yeah. And some things aren't like reasonable, right? Like you can't do that now, but that's fine. Like just put that on hold and do that after. Sure. But like if I look at what, like in my industry, let's say imagine like a lot of people, they'll buy a workout plan, but then the nutritionist doesn't talk to the person doing the workouts, and 80% of the thing comes from workouts. 80% of the results come from nutrition. So, but most people go to a trainer first. So you've gone to the wrong person.
Always.
First of all. Then I think like I noticed that the fixed plans don't help that individual. So like they go off track. They go from plan A where they're following the plan perfectly. They go to plan F when they're not. And then they don't get results. So people then get demotivated and they drop off. So I was like, that doesn't make sense, because in the lifestyle of the people that we work with, their routines change all the time. And then I thought, like, because I come from an e-commerce background, like with my last company, it's that you know that the less steps that somebody has to go through, the less friction that they have, the more likely they are to convert to the outcome that you want. So I've applied that same philosophy to health and fitness. So knowing, for example, that if you're going to travel, like the January before COVID for my last company, I was on a plane for 50 hours, right? Which meant it's very difficult to control nutrition and like exercise and things like that. It becomes like an afterthought. But I had like an EA, for example, right, that would take care of certain things for me at certain times. So I was like, okay, let's work together on how we can like optimize this a like bit better. So make sure I've got a gym when I go like traveling, you know, these types of things that you can do that then even when it's an afterthought, you have them taken care of because you've got a system that you just simply follow, a process. And we take care of that for our clients, basically, by having experts that do it, which obviously leads to better results.
I love it. I think it's a good time to go into our rapid fire questions.
All right, let's do it. Yeah, go for it.
Cool. What's your favorite business book?
I would say there was a book that I read called Pitch Anything. And it reframed my mindset on understanding like when you're like raising capital or like you're selling a service or selling a product, there's only one of you. You're unique, but there's an abundance of capital out there. That for me was just a really good mindset set shift to basically have at a young age around like 20, 21. I would say that was probably like one of the best books. I really enjoyed reading a book called like Predictable Revenue, which was around like processes of building like a sales engine. I've read like countless books. Sure, it's quite hard to like pick one that I really love, but
it's those are really not always the favorite book. It's usually like the one that comes off to your top of your head right now.
Yeah.
What's one thing that you wish that you knew before starting your business?
There's people out there that will help you. So you feel that you're like a lone ranger going at it alone, but there's when you like, how are you saying like some people just like are willing to help you? I think the trick is just like showing you've done the research on them, be thoughtful in the way that you've written it, and have a very clear ask of what you would want to get out of them. So like, or what you want them to help you with. Because I found that a lot of people say like, it'd be great to get your advice, let's catch up for coffee. The number of requests you get for that, it's a lot. And so you need to decide like what you filter and where you want to give people your time. If somebody says like they ask something very specific, if I can't help them, I'll tell them I can't. And maybe I'll refer them to someone else. But if I can, then I'll look to help them. I want to make sure that they also get the value out of meeting me too. So I think that's really, really important.
I think that's super important. I completely agree with that. And I don't think I've ever had anyone answer that. As soon as you've done anything fairly rare or remarkable,
sure,
you will get people to ask your advice on things, right? Which is a beautiful thing.
Yeah.
It's something we actually wanted to be in that position. I always dreamed of being in that position of service and can help somebody, especially someone like me 10 years ago, right?
That's a really interesting thing, is that people resonate with that. So like they look and they know the hardship that they went through. So they look at you and they just think, I want to help you. Because they're helping the younger version of themselves a lot of the time, right? So I think that's really important. There's actually one thing I want to add here is that a lot of the time some people go to the person that's like, say, super successful. So let's say imagine like Bill Gates.
Sure.
Obviously he's a smart guy, he's achieved a lot. But if you're asking him about, let's say, finding product market fit, he did that decades ago. So that information isn't so fresh. And so he might not be the best person to help you with that. What I find to be really helpful is to go and ask for advice from somebody that's like maybe 2 years ahead of you. They're going to be, one, more accessible, but two, all the information that they've learned is super fresh. So what I found is that over time, what I started doing when I was more conscious about it is I found someone 2 years ahead, and then eventually I would catch up to them and I'd go to the next one and like kind of doing that. And that helped expedite my learning a lot more.
I've also noticed, it's very interesting that you say that, because I've also noticed something with lots of people that I ask for advice from, and also the way I answer advice sometimes. I noticed the more further ahead that you get on, and I'm talking only strictly finances here, further ahead that you get from the other people, you tend to get more and more theoretical. Like you don't get so much in the weeds anymore.
Why do you think that?
Because it's so hard to answer.
Okay.
Like you tell me, like you ask me right now, hey, what's the best like marketing channel for DBC? Like I can't tell you that. I haven't done any research on your company, your service. I'm not even your customer. You know, I would be like, I'd be thinking this way, you know? Yeah. I can't really help you, but I can help you with a framework of thinking about it. Yeah. This is how I would tell you, okay, well, first you have to figure out what is your ideal customer? Yeah. Then you have to ask yourself, where do they hang out? And then you have to like figure out positioning inside of that market. Yeah. That's theoretical, I would say, versus like the answer of, hey, what marketing channel am I looking for, or should I be doing? Like, what's working? Oh, they all work. Yeah, it's the wrong question to be asking, and I'm not mad at anybody asking that. I ask those questions too. Yeah. It's just it's interesting. I find that if you ask Bill Gates questions, he's not going to answer with tactical advice. He's going to answer with
questions, almost
with
like
questions.
You think it through, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. And it's not a bad thing. It's actually the best way to answer it.
100%.
It's just very interesting. Next question. What's the worst advice on business that you've ever received?
That you need co-founders. I mean, I can see yourself, for example, you're a solo founder. It definitely helps to have a really good like co-founder if you've got one. But if you don't, just go at it alone. Just because like YC will say you need 2 or 3 founders or something like that doesn't mean that you actually do.
That's so true.
So yeah, and that's a way you split obviously the equity like really quickly, right? And I can tell you for myself is that I started out with several co-founders in my last business. In the end, I ended up being the only one in the business, right? So that left a lot of money on the table. It left friction. It caused a loss of friendship as well in certain for certain people. And this business I'm doing more like alone, right? But I look now more at having like my founding team in place.
Sure, absolutely. So you need the team, of course.
Very different.
But they don't have to be necessarily a founder, a co-founder with.
Correct.
You.
Yeah. So I think that it's really big. But I think if you've got the right person,
sure,
then I think it could help you go further.
It's interesting. I would actually answer probably something very similar. When starting various tech projects, I would call them, in the past, I was consuming very similar information that you were. Yeah. Y Combinator, you're reading all the blogs, software blogs, and everything. All of the knowledge is, hey, you need a co-founder. You need a co-founder. You need 3 co-founders. You need 4 sometimes, depending on the product, which are not necessarily wrong, but it almost like gives you this belief that, it's impossible to go alone.
It's almost like you can't start unless you have that. It's not true. You just get out there and basically in the end you'll realize that you can hire a lot of it, bring them in. You can still give them equity if you want and things like that. But for me personally, like I started at the age of 21, right? So none of us ever really worked before. So how do I know what they're like at working? You know, like we were like good friends and we like to hang out, but that doesn't mean that we're great at working with each other, right? So, it's like a lot of people say, you don't know if a relationship's going to work out if you haven't even lived together. So it's a similar thing, right? So I think we go in always with, like rose-colored glasses going in, right? And the truth is that a lot of them like fall apart, these kind of like co-founder relationships. So, like look at getting it in other ways. Basically, you can have like the right advisors. You can have like good founding team. Maybe it's going to take you longer to do it at the beginning because you don't have like, let's say, like free engineering resources, like quote unquote, if you've got a CTO that can just do it for you. But there are other ways around it.
How would you define a creator? Who's a creator in your mind?
Everyone. We can all create something, and we all to some degree create something. So I would say we all are, and if we think deep enough, we're all creating something.
Do you think that everyone should be a business owner?
No. Definitely
Why so
not.
quickly?
I think, obviously, like, I believe in being a business owner. I believe in the freedom. I believe, like, you know, the wealth that you can have could be like, it's more, you can get more. But I think everything comes down to like what your personal goals are. So I think it's, and I never really did this until I sold my company to understand what my goal was, apart from simply being like, quote unquote, a millionaire.
But doesn't everybody want the goal of like financial freedom, time freedom, and location freedom?
Yeah, but at the expense of what? So I think it's really like getting a list of the things that's important to you, and then deciding like if
The
this
trade-off.
is the game I want to play. Yeah.
Like if am I for these three things that I want, let's say the freedoms, I want
Yeah.
freedom, optionality. Am I willing to make this trade-off over here of like going through some of the challenges of starting a business to do it? Okay.
100%. I think like, and it's funny because in business there's like no right answer, right? Like you can start a business as a side hustle, which I'm sure like a lot of your customers do.
Many, yeah.
You can also just like say, I'm going all in, right? I've only ever done all in. And like if you ask someone like me, they'll tell you that all in is the way because that's what worked for me. But there's plenty of people that did side hustles that moved across and it worked for them as well, right? So there is no right answer. And I would say based on your like tolerance of risk and also just simply the finances you've got behind you, right? So even me now, after having sold one company, I don't have to go to work for anyone else ever again. I can just do my own thing and I can take the time that I need to do. So it wouldn't make sense for me to do a side hustle technically, right?
But the fact that there are side hustles as an option, wouldn't you now change your answer to everyone should be a business owner because they all want freedom and there is option of side hustles?
Still no, because
Why? You're trying to gatekeep business ownership.
yeah,
All for yourself.
no, yeah.
Give me all the businesses.
Yeah, because there'd be more competition for me. No, I think it's really around. It's not for everyone. Sometimes it creates more stress, things like that. But I mean, the upsides are like
Is stress bad?
You know, these are like really good questions. Like,
Yep.
Quite honestly, like I think I look at things like this, right? It's, can I live with the downside of what that will be? So, for example, starting a side hustle. Let's say like you may want to have like something come to life, like build a product, get something out there. And what's the worst that could happen? If you ask yourself that, okay, maybe I lose $100, $500, whatever that may be. Can I live with that outcome? If the answer is yes, there's not really much downside. The other thing I ask myself is, can I reverse that decision afterwards? Right? So is it just going to like blow back up on me if this is to go wrong? The answer is most of the time, like, not really. And actually the skills that you build can even help your career, even if it goes all wrong, right? So there's also like,
I agree with
don't
that.
really lose.
Like there's a way to position the chessboard where you don't necessarily have to lose completely. Like you just, if anything, you learn.
I think
which
a lot
benefits
of
your career.
100%. I think a lot of people position entrepreneurs as like risk
Full-time.
takers.
Yeah.
Honestly, I think like a good entrepreneur knows how to like mitigate risk.
That's it.
So like, for example, I see like I'm betting on myself. I have more information on me than I have on anyone else. So I'm betting on my own ability.
And you're always trying to protect downside. Like at EverBee, I'm always trying to protect my downside. Always.
Like, and so by protecting downside, you can often get like a better outcome anyway. So you have to be conscious of doing that. So I wouldn't even say that, consider myself necessarily like such a risk taker. I would more consider myself as like, I take calculated risks. I protect my downside and I play the cards that I've been dealt in the most effective way.
That's it.
Like I was saying about like my cousin, for example, who just happened to be like of a certain background, and then like it's like, that's the card that you were dealt. Play it. If you're going to start a business targeting women and you're a man, it's going to be a lot harder for you. Play the cards that you were dealt. Like I always tell people, like, I'm not the tallest guy. I'm not going to like try and become an NBA player. It just doesn't make sense.
Sure.
So play the cards that you're dealt.
Play to your strengths.
Yeah.
Very interesting. I do believe I've gone back and forth on the business ownership thing. And that's why I like to ask it from high performing people, because it's an interesting question. My answer was no for so long. Like, oh no, entrepreneurship is just too hard. Not everybody should be a business owner. And it's shifted now to, I do think everybody should be a business owner.
Okay.
But it depends on how you define a business owner now. Like it comes down to side hustle versus full-time, like full-time entrepreneurship, how big of a business, types of business. Now, those are different questions, I think. But I think anybody should own a business for the sake of learning, minimum. You learn so much more about yourself when you own a business versus just working for someone else.
Yeah.
Now, I'm not saying that you should make a decision necessarily between quitting your job and starting your side hustle business right now.
Yeah.
I'm saying start the side hustle with the business, or with the career. You will be more effective in your career. You will be more of a value asset to your boss, to your manager, to the CEO, because you just think like an entrepreneur. It's just going to be different.
I mean, I do definitely notice that the best people on my team, like in the past as well, is like the people that consider it like their own business.
Absolutely.
So obviously, like having run something yourself, you resonate much more with that. So you're more likely to exhibit those behaviors.
And it could be like they generated $5 in the past. It doesn't even have to be that.
Yeah.
That's a business. Okay, it's a start of a business at least.
I'll readjust my answer.
You don't have to answer for me, by the way.
No, I will readjust because I think it's the degree of what you define as a business.
Okay.
And that can be just simply going and like taking the leap to create one product and listing that on Etsy. You're a business owner. That's the first step.
You're in business.
And I think it doesn't have to be that you've got like a multinational like empire or something like that, right? So
Totally. There's a scale.
And every empire started with that one first step as well, right?
Yeah.
So I would say, yeah, everybody can. Just make sure that you know what your goal is and that aligns with the goals and the values that you've got. And if it does, do it.
I think we should end there.
Cool.
Anthony, where can people find you? Follow DBC, follow you, where can learn more about you, all that good stuff.
So you can check us out on dailybodycoach.com. You can also find us on socials as well. So we're across all of those. And me personally, you can catch me on LinkedIn. So it's Anthony NG Monica.
Let's go. And we will link to all those things in the show notes or the description, depending on where you watch this. And Anthony, appreciate you, bro.
Thank you so much, man. Thank you.